Ms. Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being before us. So, in reading through your statements and listening to some of what you have said, I am gathering that you are asking for more leeway, you are asking for more money, you are asking for less, not oversight, but less restrictions or requirements on how you spend the money. So, you know, I'm probably one of the few members here that gets to take a look at a lot of our classified programs where we spend, for lack of being able to talk about it in open session, billions and billions of dollars, where you have an incredible amount of leeway. Lots of money, ability to make prototypes, where it's okay to fail on our programs because we're investing for the future, we're trying new technologies, we're making new technologies. So if we would do that with more of our budget, if we would have more ability to fail, have less restrictions on the money, I think that I would see that as the American public seeing a lot more big failures from both our Pentagon and our military-industrial complex, which I think would undermine the confidence that Americans have in what we are doing with respect to defense. And I have only to note, Mr. Chairman, the F-35 program, which was a very open program where we tried new things, like concurrently doing the development at the same time that we were producing the product, which led to $700 billion overrun, and 7 years later, and we still have a lot of problems with it. So I'm trying to understand why you want more leeway. I think we need to have actually more oversight. I think we have to have a real audit of the Defense Department. I believe we really need to tighten down in a tough budgetary environment and make real choices. Choices aren't necessarily yours. They're what we do in the Congress. That's what we are supposed to do. But, you know, I would like you to speak to why advocate for more relaxation of requirements and regulation on how we ask you to spend this money.
Let me start, ma'am. First, we are not asking for more money. Second, it is not that we're asking for more leeway and fewer restrictions. What we want to be able to do is increase the degree of prototyping and experimentation that we can do, and to shorten the timeline for developing our major weapon systems. And we want to use this limited amount of prototyping and experimentation to determine if we are on the right track for a technology or a specific technical solution to our warfighters' problem before we launch into major investment of dollars. So we are not proposing to invest large, first off, to raise the top line, invest large dollars and put great dollars at risk. We're talking about a limited amount of funding to determine before we invest the large dollars, before we come to the Congress and ask you all to authorize and appropriate those dollars to see if we're on the right track. And we are absolutely committed to doing this in broad daylight with the Congress, so you have full insight and oversight to our efforts.
So, therefore, you would agree that doing something like we did with the F-35, where we were currently developing it and at the same time producing it, is not the way to go, to stop going towards a major system until we do a little prototype of it? Is this what you're suggesting, sir?
Well, I'm absolutely not suggesting that we should be increasing the amount of concurrence that we do in terms of development and production at the same time. What we want to do is reduce the risk, mature the technologies before we get into that environment, make sure we're on the right track. We are, in fact, doing this today in limited cases. And what we want to do is make this a greater part of our practice. The limited cases that where we do it, we find success, and we simply want to make that a greater part of our practice.
Well, I'll have to think about that, because when I look at the classified arena, we as you know, have a lot of failures in going forward with some of those prototypes. So
Yes,
I don't know that we would want to do that.
What I'd be happy to do is come back and walk through some examples of the prototyping that we have done that has proven successful and how we move from that to the next step, what that means in terms of dollars, and what that means in terms of the process that we use and why it makes good sense, and then how can we, the department, working with the Congress, ensure that we're achieving our mutual objectives in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of delivering capability, insight, and oversight.
Chairman, thank you first of all for the time. I think this is a very important issue for our committee to really take a look at if this is what we're being asked to do, and I think it would be very important also to get that briefing from a classified perspective to see the paths we've gone and have failed on, because I think that's also a good indicator of
There's good, bad, and ugly examples in the classified arena just as in the open arena. No
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Whitman.